Hello and welcome to episode 43 of the Foam News Collective podcast. I'm KT. I'm here with Vile. No Grims today. Vile is abroad.
Yes, very.
And so we have a sort of unusual setup going on today. How has travel been, Vile?
Not too bad. It's actually been nice. I mean, the flight here was long. It was like a 9-hour flight, but it wasn't bad.
All right. We are, in theory, here with a special guest. We have Taffy of Caramel Designs coming back, returning guest. But right now we have a blank chair. I don't know where Taffy's at.
Oh, okay. I'm here. I just got out of my exams. I didn't know I had 2 exams back to back, and I'll be complaining about that later. Let me change into something a bit more characteristic.
Oh,
nice.
All right.
Well, that's a little too recent. Actually, no, I'm not on Dauntless. I just implied the wrong thing.
Okay.
Let's go back to our roots.
Hey, yeah, that's right.
Nice.
Foam Blast represent. I love that.
All right, let me just plug in my earbuds, and we should be good to go.
I can't imagine there's anybody listening to this podcast or watching the video. Well, actually, I guess I should say, since not everybody watches video, Taffy had Taffy started with a Blaster. Wait, what's the company? Blaster Face shirt, and went to a Dauntless jersey, and then back to a Foam Blast T-shirt. Which I wish I had a Foam Blast T-shirt. I should have gotten one while I could.
You might be able to still get some. I don't know how many they have. I remember him.
Okay.
I could be wrong when I say this, but I think I remember him saying we have so many of them that we started using a couple of them as rags around the garage.
Okay.
I will ask. I will ask when I go to pick up my printer from them, actually. How about that?
There you go. Yeah. No, I'd love to get one. So
We just drink from the Caramel Designs Silver Fox Industries water bottle.
They're so nice. If I would be all over that if I didn't have like the same water bottle I've been using for like 10 years that I'm not ready to give up yet.
I think the funniest thing when I got this water bottle, the first thing I did was drop it and dent the edge in, which I wasn't super happy about, but...
Oh no,
it gives it character.
It's you modded it.
Yep.
You modded it.
Just like when I ran the flag the wrong way during the round robins at, I think it was Maryland Mayhem 2023.
Alternate strategies. There's always a good way to spin it. But yeah, we are pumped to have Taffy back, returning podcast guest. It's a very different podcast now since episode 4, when you were on previously. We're now at episode 43.
Well, let's just hop over 11 times.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun to have returning guests. We've only had a few. We are going to have Maritime Foam back, who was our second guest ever, and that was just a few episodes after you were on the first time. Although I'll say right now, for folks who are keeping track of this, I said when I set the raffle on the Discord that Maritime Foam would be our next guest. We may be pushing that back because we may have another very exciting guest that I can't announce yet. I'm still trying to confirm it for next episode. Kind of a big one, but I can't say anything beyond that. So Maritime might be pushed back to episode 46 because episode 45 will be our live podcast at Ragfest, which...
I'm not going to Rag. Unfortunately, I'm not going to any more big events until I graduate. Steel in 2027.
That's reasonable. I understand that. But it was great meeting you at Mayhem last year.
I like how when I signed your kid's skewer, I misspelled my own name, or my own username, excuse me, and she looked a little disappointed.
Oh, no. They're fine with it. It's
awesome.
It's so on brand. So on brand. I love it.
Yeah, so for anybody who wasn't aware, Maryland Mayhem 2023, they had the tournament, and then they had the HVZ.
Yeah.
I played in the tournament.
Right.
My body stopped working sometime in between the tournament and the HVZ.
Yeah.
And then completely stopped working during the HVZ when I tripped and fell, and Boomstick also fell on me, and we landed in a pile of rocks, and that wasn't fun, but I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how Ragfest has the opposite schedule, where the HVZ is first and then the tournament's after. So I'm curious to see how many people playing in the tournament are even going to participate in Stalking Dead for similar reasons to that. But of course, as much as I love talking about that, we didn't have Taffy back here to talk about that. Today we had Taffy here to talk about an exciting new release, which is kind of a first for our hobby. The Twist Fury, released by Buzzbee Toys under the Air Warriors brand and available in Dollar Generals across the U.S., but not where I live, even though we have like 3 Dollar Generals in a neighboring town. Not a single one of them has gotten them yet.
I've been seeing a lot of them pop up in Australia, not at Dollar General. Yes. I don't know if they have those there.
They have they have a different store in Australia that carries Buzzbee stuff. I don't know what it's called offhand. And people are finding them in the U.S. Just not me.
I haven't even held one yet.
Yeah, I was gonna
let
say
that sink in.
Yeah, I was wondering
haven't
if
even
you
held
had
one
one.
yet.
You just don't have one. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get there, I guess. But this is unique, right? Because I can't think of another. We haven't had another situation where a hobby designer's specific design. Obviously, we have hobby designers who this is relevant to your story, which I'll let you tell, but who work for major companies as designers, but we don't have a situation where a hobby design was transformed into an on-the-shelf product until now.
And I think sorry to cut you off. I think the biggest thing is I still retain full ownership of this.
Yes, and that's huge.
Yeah, that's massive.
That's so huge. Well, so will you recount the story of how the connection came about, how you wound up working with them on this project?
So, back in February 2023, I get this message from Captain Slug I'm tripping on my words. I'm a little nervous. It's my first time back on the podcast, or on any podcast in a while. Deep breath?
You got this. You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Back in February 2023, I get this message from Captain Slug informing me that Brownie Johnson, the Vice President of Product Development at Buzzbee Toys, will be reaching out to me to talk about skewer stuff.
All right.
For a bit more context, Captain Slug was hired on by Buzzbee as their product designer shortly after he moved to South Korea. And I was actually born in South Korea. I'm adopted and I'm very happy with where I am, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to the story. We initially had some problems trying to get in touch. Slug had said that they'd be reaching out through Reddit. Reddit! Oh, there's Reddit right there.
Yep.
That didn't happen. What ended up actually happening was they had to email Silver Fox Industries customer service line, so that way Ryan could actually tell me who I needed to send all my information to. Okay. And then after I sent all the stuff I needed to, I just had to patiently wait for that phone call, and much like they are now, my nerves were really starting to get to me. I didn't know what to expect.
Well, yeah, it's so mysterious to get a message like that. That's just like, hey... vague, like, especially when you're working with such a big player like a major company like that maybe you haven't interacted with before, and you get a message that's kind of scant on the details. I can imagine that would be stressful.
Hold on, I'm getting moderator messages potentially.
Ugh, isn't that the worst?
Yeah.
I'm also a mod in like 20 discords I don't pay attention to. Sorry, people.
Yeah, I'm the moderator on the r/nerfs Discord, not affiliated with the subreddit. I don't know if I'm allowed to state my stances on either, but I don't like both. Actually, I just did.
We can keep that out of the pod for now. Oh, never mind. No, we can't. You already put it in. Anyway.
It's fine. Where was I?
You heard it here first, folks.
Let me just close that. Okay.
Taffy thinks the internet is bad.
I think working with any... on that
to sign
subject,
some
but
paper.
yeah.
Oh, no, that's too far ahead. So what followed after I did get the phone call was easily the coolest hour-long phone call I've ever had. We reminisced about the hobby's past. I got to learn some cool things about their internal process. I got to hear a lot of why first-party blasters are sort of going in the direction that they are, specifically with Elite 2.0. I don't know how much of this I can talk about, so I'll withhold from that.
Don't risk your relationship.
Of course.
Yeah.
Just tell us.
Anyways, we get to talking, and he's like, "Great, okay, we'd like you to submit some engineering samples." I don't think he actually said engineering samples. It just sounds really cool when I say that. It makes me feel really important. But yeah, I had to sign some paperwork and NDAs, tax forms, etc., and was asked to, submit a couple of engineering samples, which I happily did. And they even offered to pay me by the hour to design the shell.
Right. I thought that I first of all, I hear you reading the excellent blog post that Out of Darts recently posted.
Yeah, because I had to repeat this to so many people.
And I thought that was a really interesting detail that they actually were interested in having you design the shell, but I know you turned it down just because that's not an area of focus that you have.
If we look at any of the printed those two aren't printed. Those two are.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a completely different method of design.
Can you kind of just give the like elevator pitch of like what's different about modeling for 3D print versus designing for
let me go
molded?
Pick a blaster off the display wall that I hastily set up. Let's grab two. Okay.
Don't forget to explain for the audio only listeners.
Both
the audio only needs the full rundown of it. So
yeah, make sure you explain for audio only folks too what you're doing.
Okay, so I'm holding right now a flat bar skewer, new design I'm working on. It's a lighter skewer. That's pretty much it. That wasn't supposed to fall off. So yeah, it's kind of hard to get into words when it really depends on being able to see what you're doing. Mm-hmm. For most printed blasters at this point, you're not building them in clamshell halves. What you're doing is you're sliding a bunch of parts onto a set of bars, a set of rods, rails, whatever.
There's sort of like there's a lot of designs have like sort of almost a central core that you're sort of like skewering things onto, right? As opposed to
instead of pulling the blaster apart and putting things in between the halves of the things you just pulled apart, you're working all the internals directly into a single monolithic or single piece part.
Right.
That was one heck of a string of words.
I think monolithic is the best way to describe it, though.
You can't print something like that. It just doesn't work that well, with the exception of blasters like the Griffin, but we don't see a lot of Griffin-type blasters unless they're Griffin derivatives. Meanwhile, with the clamshell blaster, like I just mentioned, you unscrew all these screws, and like I'm holding a Deuce Pro right now. You unscrew all the screws here, you can just dump all the crap out, and you're left with two empty halves and parts that you're just supposed to cram inside.
Right.
Mm-hmm. This would be a lot easier to explain if I wasn't trying to figure out how to do it with words instead of pictures.
I think that explain right. I think you're building in a different direction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it, actually.
I would say the idea of printed is monolithic versus shells. And because we even have it in our modeling programs to do a shell of a monolithic part. You could literally just turn it, and it makes it however thick you want that to be. That is the best way to describe it. Monolithic versus a shell. Those are the two primary differences, I would say.
Don't you kind of like when you design a blaster like the skewer or the red herring? Don't you kind of come up with the shape of it and then figure out how to like chop it into printable pieces and like
pretty much
how the hardware goes through?
Actually, everybody's design process is a bit different. I usually try to work with the end already in mind, just because this is a very weird sort of platform to design around. I need to consider, how are these parts going to go together? How am I actually going to assemble the darn thing in the first place? And how am I going to make sure it doesn't explode instantly when I fire it?
Right.
You've got to juggle all sorts of things like print direction, part shape, part count, assembly. It's
forces being applied to your printed parts because your layer lines.
This thing is, for example, is very overbuilt.
Yeah.
Usually
we'll overbuild
parts.
Yeah, you'll overbuild a printed blaster.
I think that's kind of how our hobby operates with a lot of, like, we would rather just overbuild things and know that they are safe and reliable and functional as a result, than because we don't have the same we don't have the same constrictions necessarily on mass production, where it's like if you can remove one screw, you're going to save the company $200,000. That doesn't really apply in a situation where you're kind of just making instructions and selling hardware kits. Like, yeah, you could bring the hardware kit cost down a little bit, but the average buyer isn't going to look at a $20.50 hardware kit over a $21 hardware kit and be like, well, I'm not spending 50 more cents to get an extra screw in my block. You know what I mean? Like, the same pressures don't apply.
I'm actually switching over to printed RAMs for most of my designs, and we'll get to why in a little bit. It turns out that slug RAM cores actually cost about $10 a piece because you need to machine them from a very weird size of aluminum stock that's just kind of a pain, and we'll get to that. But
I mean, that was a big part of Slug's business for a long time, was machining those parts, right, that were specific to his designs.
And now that there are so many slug blasters out there. We need more volume than a guy in a shed can just realistically put out on his own.
Yeah,
Fair.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, we talked about how you retained the ownership of the design.
Oh,
which
we
is-
didn't actually finish the whole story. I'm still having to
finish
read
the
off
whole
my
story then.
script.
Yeah. No, finish, go on.
Anyways, yeah, they offered to pay me by the hour to design the shell.
Right.
What?
Right.
I was, 20 at the time? I couldn't even drink.
Legally.
Yeah, if you can't tell, I'm still having trouble processing all this. Why me? How me? Anyways, I had to turn it down between not having designed for injection molding before and also dealing with school at the same time. I just didn't have time for that. They
Yeah.
wanted it done by the end of a week or so, which was insane.
Yeah.
Anyways, I continued on with college and mostly forgot about it. Oh, right. They also paid me for my time, regardless. I put that money towards a roughly 3-year-old engineering workstation, the one that's the one that I'm talking into right now, and the same one that's been churning out blaster after blaster ever since.
That's great.
It's paid for itself. I put that money towards something I knew would help me.
That's cool.
Nice.
I like
Anyways,
that a lot.
August 2024 rolls around, and I'm working my awful dead-end retail job, trying to develop the ability to explode customers with my mind.
How's that working out?
Not very well.
When you get it going, will you add that feature to the flat bar skewer?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll add the explode customers with mind button right to the here. Great spot for your offhand index finger.
Put it right next to the mag release. Hopefully it won't get hit on accident.
Anyways, because that isn't really going that well, I'm checking my phone out of boredom, and suddenly the Buzzbee skewer is real. The Buzzbee skewer is happening. This is real. This is real. I'm mostly just saying what I was telling myself. And my day went from I want to walk onto the freeway to I am going to buy takeout tonight to celebrate in an instant. I was the happiest person on the sales floor for the next 3 hours as I continued to not do my job.
I'm trying to find that original European listing because it got brought to us. Okay. Jumping for Joy was one of the. There's like a bunch of like random. I think this is. Nope. Well, anyway, whatever. Yeah, I remember that getting dropped to us and almost missing it because it was brought to us in like a big stack of random releases that all came together, and then it kind of went through it, and I was like, "Why do I recognize that grip?" And the front end.
I looked at the grip.
Wait a second.
Yeah, the grip caught me
Wait a
right
second,
away.
I recognize that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that grip caught me right away, as did the priming on the back. I was like, that's a skewer. I know exactly. And then the people were running rampant with the like, did Buzzbee steal it? Because people didn't know. It hadn't- right.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
nobody knew at the time, right? Everybody, because it was all, I mean, you didn't know. Nobody had talked about it. It just kind of was going unnoticed. And then it was released. And then, everybody was like freaking out. Like, does Taffy know? Is this a skewer?
Right.
Did Buzzbee take the? And yeah, everybody was going crazy. It was really funny
Well,
to
no,
watch.
this is your screen. We're just on the same part.
Yeah, well, and
Yeah.
part of it can I think we can say this now. We have known about this since episode 4. Taffy,
Sorry,
'cause-
Buzzbee. I did kind of break NDA because I was so excited.
Well, I think you're fine because nobody ever said anything publicly, and we also kept it under wraps from then until now. We didn't know what was being done. All you said was that you were going to be working with Buzzbee and that it was a secret, and nobody
Yeah.
could say anything about it. And
I
so
think
we
the funniest part
we just sort
was
of knew, and then when we saw it, it was very exciting what happened. But we were like, okay, we knew something was coming, but
Yeah.
we didn't know what it was until we saw this.
I think the funniest part was it's hard to keep your mouth shut, especially when something this exciting was happening. So they were very subtle allusions to it. Then when I realized, you know what, people are probably going to start picking up on this.
Yeah.
Why don't I just throw everything out the window and say, oh, I've also got a contact at Hasbro, I've got a contact at Dart Zone, I've got a contact at X-Shot. And yeah, I was just throwing around, oh yeah, my X-Shot contact, missing in action, Zuru has gone AWOL. My
Yeah.
Buzzbee contact is doing Buzzbee things. My Hasbro contact is speaking legalese towards me, and I can't understand anything, so I just kind of politely ignore him. The Dart Zone contact, they just keep talking about no bullshit marketing.
You know, we've I mean we're lucky to have decent relationships with most of the companies.
It's
but
amazing that we
I
are
have-
where we are.
Honestly,
Really.
the fact that all of the companies have any kind of relationship with the hobby is really significant.
We're not news.
Hasbro has been the one that is not. I mean, most hobby things are very small potatoes to Hasbro. I think that they're starting to pay more attention now that they're getting into a pro line. Like we saw all the influencers that they invited to the headquarters for ostensibly for the N1 stuff, but that we also now know that they got shown all the pro products at the same time. But we've tried to get designers from Hasbro on, and they have a whole legal process that they have to go through before they can talk.
They're
on
a huge company. They're working
podcasts,
on
and
likely
so
more
it's
than
just we've never been able to make it work out. Maybe someday we'd love to have somebody on. But
Hasbro's got that lock and key on it, man. They don't let it go at all.
This is a good segue into the Buzzbee difference, and I'll be saying that phrase multiple times throughout, or at least one more time.
Okay.
There's a joke here.
What's the Buzzbee difference, other than the difference between your grip that you provided on this blaster and all
That was
the other
actually
grips?
Slug who designed the shell.
Oh,
Speaking of which,
I know, but
I've seen
based on
CAD
you.
renders for other types of skewery blasters. I can't get into the specifics, but it's really weird seeing one of those renders on my screen as a real thing.
But what you're saying is this isn't the only product that they're doing derivative of the design they've licensed from you.
I think I can say this, and I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to elaborate on it more.
Okay.
I've gotten 2 other people into contact with Buzzbee toys.
Ooh,
Okay.
Okay. Nice.
That's interesting to know. So,
Anyways.
yeah. I mean, that's exciting just to know that is a relationship, the hobby to a company like that there's more to be seen from potentially.
It was a surprisingly the conversations I had with Brownie were surprisingly chill. He would always be like, "Hey, if any of your other designer friends have ideas, hey, get me in contact with them. We'd love to hear them, and we'll be upfront. If it's not something we can do, we'll tell you why."
Right.
That's smart.
Anyways, getting on to the Buzzbee difference.
Okay, what's the Buzzbee difference?
Buzzbee was founded by ex-Laramie engineers after Hasbro dissolved the company in 2002. They
Anybody who follows our trivia game in our podcast will know about this.
I actually don't watch the podcast very much. I'm a bad person
that's
because
okay.
I'm so busy.
You should check the what was it, 2 episodes ago?
I don't remember.
I had podcast questions that were about the founding of Buzzbee, among other things. Anyway, continue.
Getting back to that, Buzzbee was founded by ex-Laramie engineers after Hasbro dissolved the company in 2002. They bought them out in
Something
1995.
Yeah.
So they've been watching the hobby grow and change since the very start. From picking up Slug to Slug getting me in touch with them, we've come full circle.
Yeah, it's cool. That's really neat that it worked out that way.
I've also been doing Nerf in some capacity since I was 12, 13? I'm 21 now, going on 22.
Oh,
If you had told me when I was 13, still trying to meld a K9 cannon, if you know what that tennis ball launcher is, with a Recon Mark II,
Yep.
hey, you're going to design a lot of cool stuff. You're going to get to work with Buzzbee toys. This is your life now. Mm-hmm. I would have either called you crazy and just went off my day, or I just wouldn't have believed you straight up. Actually, I think those are the same things. Regardless, if you had told me that we're going to have pro-level blasters just like this on store shelves, you could just buy these at Walmart. They're not expensive.
Yeah,
what?
That's that. I think it's funny. It's hard to remember. We're so used to it now, right? So quickly we've become so used to it, and I think it's hard to realize, go back and reflect on how magical that is. What it took to get us to that point.
Yeah, get
I can
Nexus
buy
Pro
short
and
darts
Aeons.
the morning of my game because I
Right.
don't have any darts.
Yeah.
Actually, I can't because I don't have any money.
Well, and you're not going to any games. Well, I guess you're going to stuff. Just
I'm
not
going to
events.
local games. I'm just not
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
any
yeah.
place that's going to require staying for more than a day or driving more than an hour.
What you mentioned that one of the parts of this is that you're keeping the license, which is a really, really big deal because in a lot of situations like this, companies don't make that proposal. They just want to buy things outright, and I think it's really great that they didn't take that approach. What? And you're being are you being compensated?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Per unit.
Not 100% sure on the details, but from the talks we've had... Oh, does anybody remember iSoaker? Does anybody remember back in the old days, there was actually a homemade Super Soaker scene. Mm-hmm. Let that sink in. If you're not familiar, there was a homemade Super Soaker scene. And they didn't really evolve past the point of everything looking like a pipe bomb, unlike Nerf.
Shout out to Squirtle Plays, who recently released a homemade Super Soaker called the Aquifer. It's the first one I've seen in a long time.
I can't believe people are still even making them. Anyways, the guy who runs iSoaker, Buzzbee knows of a guy who runs iSoaker, and that guy has also apparently designed more than one product. Yeah, Buzzbee is paying royalties to the guy who runs iSoaker for things that are still being sold to this day.
That's great.
They are very upfront with their inventors, as Brownie said, and yeah, this was different than anything I've been told in all my professional development courses.
Don't want to create a Lonnie Johnson situation like Hasbro did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like to sneak his name in the pod whenever I can.
But yeah, going into this, I was like, they're not trying to dupe me, are they? And for a while, Brownie actually stopped responding to my emails. But I later figured out that's because I started signing with John Biederman, my actual name. That's public information. I don't really care anymore. Instead of Taffy, and he just didn't recognize me. Eventually, after I started pestering him on WhatsApp, email, actually, I think those are the only ways I had to contact him. He was like, "Oh crap, it's this guy," and then he immediately got me back in touch and was like, "Sorry, I didn't recognize."
Yeah. What's going on over there? Okay, sorry, I got distracted by something. So. What do you think? What do you think of the final product?
I don't know because I haven't.
Well, I know
held
you
one.
haven't. I know you haven't felt one, but you've gotten to see other hobbyists get their hands on them and react to them. And
Shoutouts to Double Striker for making a Half Dark conversion kit for it already.
That was my next thing. Was people are already making mod parts for this thing, which again is a kind of a funny mini full circle, right? Where it started out as this 3D printed design and went all the way around and came back.
Hey, for $15 and
modded.
whatever it costs to get those extra parts and the $200 you need to buy a printer,
It would be
you can
really
have one of
funny.
these.
Or
Again.
it'd be really funny to tune a skewer down to like 75 FPS and then mod a Twist Fury up to like 200 something.
And it will survive one shot.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, this is just such a big deal for the hobby, I think. The fact that this ever happened. And to hear from you that this
is just the beginning.
More,
this is
is
just
gonna
the
happen
beginning.
more. That's
Yeah.
incredibly exciting.
Oh yeah.
I frequently invoke you as an example of where involvement in this hobby can take someone. Just like when a lot of parents talk to me about like, my kid's into this hobby, I don't really understand it. Like, I was like, look, here's the kind of thing that you can do with this. Like, here's what this really is about. It's like, it's exercise, it's community, but it's also engineering and it's also art, and it's all of these things simultaneously.
This has become my livelihood. I've got two printers dedicated to churning out blasters. One of them is broken, and we can maybe get to that if we have some extra time. Not Bamboo's fault. That printer was actually a rescue from Micro Center.
Oh.
Yeah, $130.
Hey, not bad.
I had actually bought a $300 super nice mechanical keyboard right before that. Then when I went back to Micro Center to get a mouse pad, I saw the printer and I was like, okay, I need to go home right now, return the keyboard, and get this instead.
It's so funny because one of our Ko-Fi subscribers, Emilio, said, if you want a tangent, just ask Taffy about One Wheels and his Bamboo A1 Mini. And I didn't even have to ask. We're just there. We just got there.
Unfortunately, my one wheel is currently out of commission.
Oh, no.
The wheel bearings on that thing are... Okay, I think we should get into just a little bit of how that works.
It's a zero wheel.
So, it's a big hub motor. The
Right.
motor is like inside the wheel, and then there's an aluminum rim that you put the tire on. There are ball bearings that hold the motor hub onto its axle, so it can spin smoothly. My bearings have at least 3,000 miles on them, and the previous owner did not do a great job of taking care of them. They sound like crunching bones when you turn them, and they don't turn all that well either. Yeah, my friend who builds One Wheels is telling me, yeah, dude, you shouldn't ride it anymore. Otherwise, your bearings might seize up completely, and then they're gonna start wearing down the motor axle, and then you're gonna have to buy a $600 motor.
Yeah.
Which
how
hard
is the bearing swap?
We haven't done it yet. Unfortunately, my friend also recently broke her collarbone because her board's gyroscope decided, I'm 90 degrees now.
Oh my god.
So the way a One Wheel works is, hold on, let me pick up something as reference. The board can tilt forward and backwards, but because you've got to steer it like a skateboard, it can also tilt side to side.
Right.
There comes a point, though, where if you're leaning to the side too much, your wheel isn't even touching the ground anymore, and if you keep trying to run the motor, if the wheel does manage to touch the ground, it's going to fling the board somewhere unpredictable and probably hurt somebody.
Oh my god.
So there's a safety cutoff past a certain angle that I don't remember. Yeah, her board suddenly decided, and then it shut off while she was going like 27 miles an hour. She's all right now. She doesn't need surgery, luckily. But
that's good. You don't want to be like the president or CEO or whatever of Segway who like died on a Segway.
I remember reading about that. What happened was he wanted to back out of the way of somebody walking their dog, and he apparently backed off a cliff.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was.
I shouldn't be laughing. It's actually
not to
very
get
sad.
too macabre. I mean, it's
ironic.
It's sad, but it's also
irony.
kind of funny.
At least he died being polite.
That's true. That's true. Much more than a lot of CEOs can say. Anyway, I want to dovetail. Speaking of our Ko-Fi subscribers, I want to dovetail into questions from our Ko-Fi subscribers. One of the perks of backing us on Ko-Fi as the Foam News Collective is that you get to ask our podcast guests questions every episode, and we've got a couple for you here. And one of them ties right into this. Ghost Armory asks, how did it feel seeing your design on store shelves for the first time? Now, I know you haven't physically seen it on shelves. We've covered that. But
hold on. I've got an image here somewhere.
What does that feel like?
Well, first, let me find the picture that was taken where this Twist Fury was positioned right above the Ryan's World blaster.
Oh my god, I need to see that. I need to see that.
When I saw that image, I was like, oh my god. My thing is sitting right on this shelf, right next to the Ryan's World mass-produced Garbolium.
Did you call Buzzbee right immediately and be like, we need to rebrand this Taffy's World right now? Get on it. I haven't seen those Ryan's World blasters for so long. That was like just before we started the show.
I mean, you can't really miss them. They've always got the giant R emblazoned on them. It's Ryan.
Yeah,
or it could be Rocky,
I've
Rocco.
seen them in Shell, Rocco's
I've seen them
Modern
in thrift stores.
World.
I've never seen them new. I only ever see them at the thrift store from time to time.
Yeah.
That's
I've seen them.
I found the image. I'm gonna post it into our super secret guest chat.
Oh, okay, cool. I wasn't sure if you could share a screen or not. You might be able to, but I'll bring it up so that we have it.
I have a giant ultra wide. Sharing the screen would not be a good idea because you wouldn't be able to scale it down properly to fit on.
Fair enough. Unfortunately, the screen sharing. I'm not super convinced by the screen sharing feature in the program that we're using yet, but that's fine. We'll get there.
I don't even know what we're using.
But yeah, that's something special.
Yeah.
Just the Twist Fury right above the, what is it? It's called like the Eradicator or something.
I think it's called the R-Radicator.
R-Radicator, yeah, that makes sense.
I'd buy a Twist Fury any day over that.
I'm
just saying.
So
I'm not
I have
biased
2 or
anything.
3 friends who want me to pick them up for them if I ever see, like we have like a pack.
What, the Twist
like,
Fury or the
sees
Ryan's World blaster?
Oh, you know. No, Taffy's World, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to get my hands on it for sure.
We'll just start calling it Taffy's Fury.
I want to add a sealed one.
I didn't answer the question. Or I didn't answer the actual version of the question. I'll answer my version first. When I saw my blaster was on the same shelf as a Ryan's World product, I didn't feel anything at all because I do not really care about Ryan's World or children's YouTube content in general.
Reasonable.
When I saw it, ignoring the Ryan's World, I'm using my hand to cover my screen right now. I was like, this is real. My thing is on the shelves. This is real. is this real? This is real. It's very surreal. You see pictures of these in CAD, right? Slug sent me CAD images of this. I've known what this is going to look like for a while. And then you see it in real life. But because I haven't seen the real physical thing, I've just been seeing photos of it. Is this real? I don't know.
So now we need to get somebody to buy one and send it to you so you can actually have a physical one in person.
Apparently.
Reaver N7 actually just got back from the UK a little while ago, and
really?
he is going to be giving me one. Unfortunately,
nice.
he was not able to fit the packaging in his luggage, but...
All right.
Speaking, that's
Sick.
where I'm at, is in the UK. Wait, are you saying that we can get them in the UK? Do I need to go looking around the UK?
Potentially, I'll get you in touch to see what you can figure out.
All right.
Yeah, I'll have to know, because if I can get one
Yeah,
while
just-
I'm here, why not?
Just knowing where to go to find them, I guess.
Yeah, that's all I need to know.
We have another question from. Sorry. Before that, I wanted to say one of the things that I want to do. I want to get a Twist Fury in package to add to the hobby museum, and just leave it in package. Like I said, it's such a big thing. Like for it to be the first hobby design to be turned into a shelf injection molded product is a really, really big deal. And
Where's my hat? Speaking of Buzzbee, I
having
need
a record
to
of that.
point something out about the try-on. Hold on, let me get my hat back on.
for listeners who don't know, the Buzzbee handled manufacturing.
Ow! I hit my knee.
For Game Face, which I think I called Blaster Face.
Give me a sec,
earlier,
I hit
for
my
Game
knee on
Face.
my desk.
Yeah.
Ow!
Man
You
down.
okay there?
I'm good.
All right.
Man down.
Is this more or less on brand than misspelling your name on the skewer, hitting your knee on the thing on the podcast? I don't know.
I don't know if it's on brand or not. All I know is that it hurt.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
So, Buzzbee was responsible for manufacturing this.
Yep. Oh, was that the story? Because I told them I said that while you were off headset just to like prime people for whatever you were gonna say, but apparently that's what you were gonna say. No, I know. Okay, well, yes.
I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about.
Oh.
Did we lose Taffy?
Uh-oh.
I was like sitting here and I wasn't sure if it was my internet that was going down because
Same. I was like, is it mine? Is it? Oh,
we're kind of losing you, Taffy. Oh,
Can you hear us, Taffy?
okay. We did.
There's
Okay.
Taffy.
Yep. All right, it looks like you're back.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I think you
Edge
hit the
had-
internet with your knee.
Well, damn.
Anyway, yeah, I know. Yeah, we've. Whoop.
Whoop.
Well, how you doing, Val?
Oh, I'm doing all right, you know.
I'm sure.
Okay,
there we go.
can you hear me now? It made me
Yes,
refresh the page.
Yeah. No, you're back. We got you back.
Cool. Okay. I don't remember what I was talking about.
Well, we were just talking about how Buzzbee handled manufacturing for the Triumph.
And then you said you did
Game
have a
Face.
detail, or you knew something about the Tryon and Buzzbee, and it was that it kind of got weird, but I don't know what you were going to say.
Issues related to, if anybody remembers the issue where you'd prime, you're going to have to trim this audio down later because this is loud. You'd fire, you'd pull the trigger, but the blaster wouldn't actually shoot unless you smacked it. It was a material problem. Blasterface Chris can get more into what that was related to, but Brownie Johnson had his own thoughts on how it could have been fixed, but neither here nor there. It's not a problem on this unit, which is great because I can empty an entire mag in about 3 seconds.
Sweet.
Yeah, and completely defeat the point of running a Springer. Ammo consumption. What was that? Oh no, my thing fell down. Anyways, we'll get into that later.
The other Ko-Fi question we have, and I guess I should triple check that we didn't get any more while we were recording. No, we're good. Emilio asks, what do you see as the next big thing for the hobby, and do you think it will come from the player side or from the corporate end?
Emilio is one of my locals. Hi, Emilio. I'm gonna have to think on that for a second.
Time's up.
Damn. Okay. I think the next big thing is going to be Nerf darts that teleport you to the Hell dimension. We're still trying to figure out how to get people out of the hell dimension, but we'll get there.
Important
Just
safety
kidding.
feature to develop first.
It's really hard to say. We're coming so far with Springer development. I mean, look at flywheel development. We used to think that there was a glass ceiling, so it were, around 150? Probably even lower than that. But now we have precision Delrin machine concave wheels that squish darts down to... Have you ever actually looked at the bore on a set of Daybreaks or set of Eclipse wheels? Actually, that might be too far back. I know Eclipse wheels had a big problem with
I know
storing
what you
darts.
mean, though. I know what you mean, though. Like,
You look at it, and you wouldn't think that worker dart head's going to squish down as far as it is, but it does. And it usually decaps because worker glue is always terrible.
They're like those little mice that can get through holes that are like half the diameter of their body.
Yeah, no, we're hitting upwards of 180 feet per second on single stage, no less. And if you go brushless, that's on the low end. But that's also because we're running bigger wheels. I specialize in Springer design. I know enough about flywheels to get by, but you'd have to talk to somebody like Kuryaka, Flagonial, somebody else who actually specializes in that field. But to get back to the question, I'm really not sure. We tend to see a lot more creativity come from the community side. I mean, who would have ever thought of shoving your pull rod through the plunger head and having that work?
Yeah.
But then we have... I'm trying to think of a really notable first-party release.
Here's a question.
Rival.
Here's a question too, because you're it's quick to break it down between Springer and flywheel stuff. Do we see? Because one of the big talking points the last year or two has been AEBs.
Good point.
Which is a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. And people are also making various forms of HPA, I think, more accessible and safer.
Silly butts, sand shark, exciting.
Yeah. Do we think maybe that there will be more of a leveling of all of these different power sources, or will will those continue to be sort of more exotic as opposed to the standard springers and flywheelers that we're more used to?
HPA cost of entry is we have to rely on some externalities that we just don't have any control over. HPA rigs are expensive. Paintball rigs are expensive. Filling the tanks is expensive, but the cost can vary depending on what resources you have available.
Yeah.
I don't think HPA is going to become mainstream for a long time just because a lot of groups just don't currently allow it. They don't like you having that much compressed gas in a tank that could go boom, even though the likelihood of that's fairly low.
One of the things that I'm mentioning in the show, which I haven't recorded yet, is Domo just released the Bungee Max, which is the 40 Max shell shaped stringer. So you can put it in a 40 Max blaster. And that. It doesn't use a 40 Max. It's a stringer within the shape of the shell. And one of the things that I mentioned in the show is if you have a 40 Max blaster that you love and you want to use it at like an HVZ, like Ragfest that doesn't allow any air blasters for safety reasons.
I've got a story, but I'll let you continue.
You can bring it. Yeah,
What?
well, I'm just saying, like, it functions as an adapter to allow you to bring it. It's just it's a different form factor, but there are events like this that just don't allow and won't allow air, which is understandable and reasonable.
It sounds like an actual gunshot going off when you shoot it. It's just how the physics work.
Right.
Okay.
So I guess that's part of the question too. I mean, like, that's part of the thing, right? Especially if you're on a college campus, just the sound of that can be a problem in and of itself. But theoretically, do these technologies get to a point where they're safer, more reliable, cheaper, and might start to be more widely accepted and adopted?
I need to think back to Emilio's question a bit more first, then I'll get to my story. What do
you
I
see as
the
next big thing? Yeah.
Springers have been getting scary accurate. I think we're getting close to the limits of what. No, that's a bit too general of a statement right there. We are getting pretty darn close to what a Springer can ultimately do without going, beyond acceptable FPS levels for what's safe to play with. I mean, you've seen what the SVLs are doing. Those things can tag your foot when you're not looking on the comp field.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of also really short draw stringers too. Things like the Rush, things like the Tulip.
Yeah, I love my Tulip. It's so fun.
Yeah, I'm not seeing quite as many big, stupid levels of power blasters like we were back in, 2019, 2020? Tail
Well,
end
yeah, there
2021?
was definitely a push towards
The race to 500 at that one point where everybody was trying to get this. Yeah.
Which is cool and great, but I think you're like there is more of a focus on refining rather than going for
hitting the ceiling.
power
Remember, we've
levels.
talked about it. Hitting the ceiling is important because all of that technology and the things that we've
It starts to
learned
trickle
hitting
back
the
down.
ceiling. It starts to move its way back down. We did all the testing in Formula One, and now we're seeing it in the road cars. It's essentially the same concept.
I was going to make the same point.
All of that. Yeah, it's the same concept, and it's nice to see it because we have these low FPS blasters, but they're becoming so reliable and so good at what they are at these lower FPS limits. It's really it's nice to see, actually. I mean, even the N1 stuff, as much as there's a group of people that hate on them, the blasters are really good at their FPS rating. There's like a deviation of only like 3 to 5. Like, they are really, really tight on their deviation for FPS limits.
I feel like by having bigger foam in a tighter barrel, you've got more room for error. You don't have to have as good of a fit as we do with our 13 millimeter inner diameter barrels in our. I only designed an Imperial. I'm sorry. I had to steal a set of Imperial calipers from high school at one point. I'm still using those. They're good despite being unbranded, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, with thicker foam, we don't have to worry as much about having the perfect barrel fit. You can just squeeze it enough, and it'll shoot just fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot with all of my diving into the N series stuff. That's something I've noticed is that blasters now on that lower end are becoming really good. And if you want to push them, you can. They've got so much plunger volume and abilities to barrel swaps. They're so great as a platform, to build off of if you want to, but you don't need to. They're kind of good where they are, and it's impressive because all that, like you were saying, the technology started the race to the top. Tested the tech and then got it where it was and refined it, and now we're getting it lower. It's really nice.
To answer Emilio's question, I don't really have a concrete answer, unfortunately. We just tend to see so much more creativity come from the community side, but the corporate side always has more resources to actually throw at something and really refine it. My best guess, and I don't know if this is what'll actually happen, but I could see it potentially happening. If we come across some sort of major breakthrough here on our side, somebody might take notice and go, hey, we can make that even better. Suddenly, we'll have a first-party implementation of something really, really cool. Yeah. Might not be as good as our implementation. They won't be able to update it as often for sure,
right.
But it's hard to say.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of solid speculation. There isn't... Ultimately, I don't think there is one big next thing, but there's a lot to say about sort of the directions that we're traveling in terms of the needs of the kind of gameplay that we're doing. I'd like to believe that, a lot of it is driven by the technology available, right? Like a lot of what we have in terms of hobby designs is because 3D printers became so widely available and became such a heavily supported hobby, right? If that hadn't happened, what would be our angle on building blasters? It would be something very different.
Slug was the one who used to machine parts and make stuff out of like parts of acrylic and polycar or whatever. It was like, I will never I don't have to, and said that, and then became one of the most prolific 3D printed blaster designs out there.
I think I remember the quote, unlike you schlubs, I have access to all sorts of fancy machine tools, and I will never need to get a 3D printer.
That's it. Yeah. That was it. That's exactly it. Yes. Yep. Taffy remembers
I remember he said schlubs, and I remember he said yeah, but I don't remember the exact wording.
It was something like that, but yeah.
We'll have to get Slug on the podcast, and he can speak for himself.
But it just shows you the direction.
Slug just had a birthday It was 2 days ago. Happy late birthday, Slug.
Happy late birthday,
Happy
Slug.
birthday. But yeah, that shows you the direction of how even people who originally didn't think printing was going, because at the time, obviously, printing wasn't as good as it is again, became one of the most prolific 3D designed, 3D printed blasters and hobby designs out there. And obviously ran a whole shop around it. And then obviously made a lot of the machined parts, but still, most of the blaster was 3D printed.
For a bit of context, I've been doing design stuff since 2019. I've been printing since roughly 2018, 2019. Yeah, it's pretty insane to see how far a $200 machine has come. This would have been unheard of back then. You'd get an Ender free for that much, and well, it was great for the time, but it just doesn't really compare anymore.
Yeah.
For how little effort you have to put in, I mean, still great machine.
So last year, the last time you were on the podcast, we played a game that what did we even call it? I don't remember. Name That Blaster or something like that.
Yeah,
you
I
remember
think it was
that?
something like that.
Where we read the description of a blaster and the official description of a blaster, and you had to guess what the blaster was. Do you remember that, Taffy?
Vaguely.
What was the? I wonder what the blaster was. Nope, not in that folder. Anyway, we eventually ran out of stuff to do in that game, so we moved to something new, and this time we have a hobby trivia game that we play. And the way this works is we come at you with 3 multiple choice questions, and if you're able to get 2 out of 3 of them right, a listener who signs up on our Discord, gets an opportunity to ask a free question of our next podcast guest, who, as I said, might be Maritime Foam, but it might also be someone else that you'll be very happy to answer a question from. And I ran the raffle on the thing, and our winner is Buff Daddy.
Of course he's a local too.
Yeah. Who runs Blaster Hub for, I can't imagine anyone, again, listening to this podcast who doesn't know that, but Buff Daddy, great guy, competitive player, very
insanely
kind.
good player, very calm on the field, quick on his feet. I play with him regularly.
Yeah.
And I also tell him a lot of really nasty things because he keeps tagging me out so consistently.
And I'm sure we can look forward to a really good question from Buff Daddy if Taffy is able to get 2 out of 3 trivia questions right. So this time we've put together a trivia game which we are calling Twist Hath No Fury Like a Designer Scorned. The questions are all just puns on the name of the Twist Fury. That's it. There's really a theme other than puns. Vile, should I do 1 and 3 again, or do you want to do 1 and 3?
It doesn't matter.
Just adjust my thinking cap.
Did you want to start with the first one?
Sure, I can.
Sure.
All right. So here's your first question, Taffy.
Okay, hit me.
Which of the following Furious products is not an official Nerf blaster? A, the Fury Fire, B, the Fury Storm, or C, the Hydro Fury?
Hold on, let me check my phone. I'm kidding. I know the Fury Fire is real. Repeat the other 2.
The Fury Storm and the Hydro Fury.
Fury Storm sounds like it could be something from an older line because their older blasters always just had weird names. Hydro Fury does sound like it could be a real thing. That sounds pretty familiar, actually. I know they've got their Super Soaker line. I'm gonna go with Fury Storm. That's not...
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Well, you are correct. This is the Nerf Hydro Fury. It's a funny little...
That looks stupid.
Super Soaker. I think that it might have been supposed to attach to something. It's just like a grip, and there's it's very strange.
I will say it looks stupid because water blaster ergonomics are very different from regular blaster ergonomics.
It's true.
Water is f***ing heavy. Bleep that out for comedic effect, please.
We'll see if I remember to do that.
Is this a family-friendly podcast?
Borderline.
Okay.
But yeah, 2011 Hydro Fury, yeah. And then, of course, the Fury Fire. Everybody knows the Fury Fire. But great job. You are 1 up. Vile,
Nice.
you want to go ahead and read question 2?
Yes. Question 2. The Twisted Spinner was an unusual cylinder-fed blaster that advanced the next dart by turning its cylinder 310 degrees, which was released in 2014 by which brand? Was it
Boomco.
A?
Sorry.
I was going to say, was it A, Bonsai by Toy Quest, B, Boomco by Mattel, or C, Air Blasters by Tyco? Is it
Actually, no, hold on. That's stop leaking my unreleased prototype blaster.
Well, I mean, you already went for B, Boomco. Are you saying it's B, Boomco?
Yes.
That you are correct. I didn't even
correct.
have
It
a
sounds-
chance.
yeah, it
you
sounds like you
already
knew
knew
that
that
one.
one. You knew that one.
I will say, when I was younger and I saw all the Boomco commercials, those look awesome. Like, I would have loved darts that actually stick to the things I'm shooting at, or the targets at least. The
Have you
shields,
played with Boomco, Taffy?
a little bit, yes, and it was
Yeah.
incredibly fun. Those
They're
darts
pretty-
absolutely
they're pretty fun.
sail too because they're so heavy.
There was definitely a point in time. I mean, this was before my time in the hobby, but there's definitely a point in time where people thought that those darts were the future of the hobby.
Yeah, I'd see people running around with Halo M6s or Boomco far shots
Yep.
like all the time, and those things are scary accurate.
I know Luke from Out of Darts was a big proponent of the M6 as well. Yep. Okay.
I keep trying to collect Boomco darts to this day. I'm still trying to get more.
Good luck with that.
I knew there was a chance that was going to be an easy one, and apparently it was. But we're going to go ahead and run our third question by you anyway, because that's the fun part.
Extra credit.
Which of the following Furious film characters appeared in a film that gave prominent screen time to a Nerf blaster prop? A. Nick Fury of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. B. Furiosa of the Mad Max franchise. Or C. Brian O'Connor of the Fast and the Furious.
I don't watch a lot of movies. I just don't have the attention span, so this is... I'm going to have to rely on my sense of logic and thinking skills. Repeat the first two again.
A is Nick Fury of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. B is Furiosa of the Mad Max franchise.
Okay. With the Mad Max aesthetic being the way it is, I would not be surprised if they're using all sorts of random crap for props. With Marvel being the way it is, I know they've already used blasters as props in the past. I'm gonna go with A.
You are 3 for 3, my friend. So specifically, I spent way too long researching this question to be sure, because I normally don't do questions that like make negative statements, like to be able to insist that like Mad Max has not had a Nerf blaster in it. I did a lot of research to make sure that it doesn't. There's like a wiki specifically for firearms and movies. That's like really well researched. And Furiosa only has has less custom weapons than you'd think, and none of them were done in like the sort of sci-fi way that we often see with so Marvel has had a lot of different Nerf blasters turned into props, into like sci-fi weapons or used
Considering
as a
the
part of
setting, it makes sense. There will be guns in a real-life adjacent film.
Right. But specifically, Nick Fury was in Captain Marvel, and in Captain Marvel, there's a scene with a sharpshooter 2, and one of the villains picks it up thinking it's an actual weapon and shoots it at Captain Marvel and just hits her with a dart. So not only, but weirdly, I could not find an example of a converted Nerf blaster into a show prop that coexisted with Nick Fury. There's a bunch of them there's a few of them in some of the big movies, but there's a bunch of them in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. One in particular is like an obscure, like 2016 blaster or something that is like hard to find. I don't want to give up too much about that because I'm saving it for Hobby Jeopardy.
Sure.
But yeah, there's some weird ones. But Taffy 3 for 3. Beret's going to be very angry about how easy this was.
Oh no! Oh,
But also I
dear.
can't let it go by without calling him out. So Buff Daddy, get in touch with your question for our next guest. Like I said, there's a little bit of a chance it'll change, but I'll announce that as soon as we know for sure. With that, I want to talk about a couple other things real quick before we wrap this up. One of the big stories that we've been talking about this news cycle is the Destiny Ace of Spades.
The Buzzbee difference. And we'll get to that.
Well, and that's why I wanted to talk about it today, as someone whose work is licensed by one of the major companies, and who also, I don't know if any of your design, because a lot of 3D printed designs get taken by companies manufacturing them typically overseas without licensing permission. I don't recall that happening to you.
Oh, it's happened. It's happened.
It has? What design did it happen to? Was
Skewer.
it the Skewer?
Very shortly
Skewer?
after
Okay.
release.
Yeah, vaguely rings a bell, but I couldn't remember for sure. This is mildly different. I mean, the good thing about this is it seems like there's a positive resolution. The artist seems happy with the resolution, but of course, other situations that have not had as good of a resolution have come to light as a result of art being stolen.
So this isn't a one-time thing then. We've got real examples of this happening before. I haven't been keeping up too much. I've just been keeping up on the surface level stuff.
Yeah, well, and I wish that I had more in my head about the other examples, but there's been a lot of discussion about that. But I did want the perspective of someone who has had your designs stolen without your permission. Did you ever come to any kind of, because it's so hard, especially when it's like overseas manufacturers who aren't necessarily legally obligated to fulfill anything. Like, you can, I guess, stop stuff from being imported, but that's about it.
This was a bit of a complicated one to handle, and it's a bit of a fun story too. So
hit
when
us.
we first found out, I don't remember who it was, but it was on my Discord, Shidmark Precision Engineering. I love that name so much.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was brought to my attention. We're like, wait, who is this? We don't recognize this person at all. Yeah, sorry, I almost knocked something down. Yeah, it turns out this Chinese printing company, well, not really a company, I think it's just like one guy, Ash 3D we'll call him, because according to my translator, and yes, I had to get a translator on that deal of stuff, said that that's the closest English pronunciation. Yeah, Ash 3D, they're selling, I believe, Captain Slug knockoffs of, I think, a couple of Shellington blasters, which is good luck with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, MHP, but your blasters aren't always the easiest to assemble or get working.
Well, maybe
Neither
that's
here
just,
nor there.
maybe that's just karma for the person trying to build them illegally.
But yeah, just lots of things, and we're going through his catalog. It goes deep. The Yeehaw, the Flak. I believe there was an Indra there too. Definitely at least a Caliber and a Talon Claw, a Skewer. Some MHP blasters I don't remember. A lot of things. So we're sitting here thinking, all right, we need to figure out how to either stop this from happening or get in touch to make sure that we can sort this out the correct way.
Right.
My first thought was to make a Facebook account, because we figured out they were scraping a Facebook group, one of Captain Slug's Facebook groups, which explains the high number of slug blasters there. I made this really crazy, weird skewer body kit, and I'll try to get you a screenshot of that later to throw up on the screen for people watching with video. And what I ended up doing was I went to the Wikipedia page on Chinese censorship and downloaded it, put that into the file download, then threw that on Facebook and just waited. That shut it down pretty quickly. Yeah, maybe going a bit too far, but
that is one approach.
yeah, their site didn't get immediately shut down, but I'm pretty sure we spooked them pretty well.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, okay, we actually need to get in touch and try to resolve this peacefully. So Pad Griffin, who does know some Chinese, was able to get on WeChat and start talking with this guy and act as the mediator/translator between me and Ash 3D. Eventually, yes, we did come to licensing them. But it turns out, according to other Chinese sellers, Ash 3D is not a great company, and I shouldn't be licensing them. You shouldn't really be buying from them. But it was what it was, and I got a kick out of using maybe, I'm not even sure if you can call it clever, just stupid government forces beyond my comprehension to do my bidding for me.
Stupid government. I'm writing this down as a possible title. Forces beyond my comprehension. Okay, good. It's hard choice between that and Taffy's World, so we'll see. But yeah.
Okay, I'll pitch you this. Welcome to Taffy's World. Stupid government forces beyond my comprehension.
We'll see what Grim can fit in the thumbnail. I like that though. But yeah, so in this situation we have Bungie. Well, no, it seems like we have a designer at Hasbro using this person's art, which is based on a Bungie property, but is clearly distinct art, which does not match the in-game art for.
If we want to throw the images up on screen, you can see the exact paint markings. They're identical.
Yeah,
they are just straight up identical. Throw it up in post. It doesn't have to be in it now, but
no, but it's so much easier if I do it now. That's the thing. Like, it's so much less work for me. So I'm just gonna talk about how much easier it is for me to cover the time it takes me to look up the thing.
Sure, but that's standard practice. You know, you gotta stall for time somehow.
Yeah,
did I ever tell you about that story where I was stalling for time?
And stuff.
Okay, yeah. But it is very specific details clearly clearly taken from the art. And
there's an even better image somewhere with the colors inverted and it completely broken down to show you these scratch markings, these engravings are just straight up identical.
Yeah. So it seems like the good thing is they reached out to Bungie, and according to the artist and to Bungie, they've reached some kind of resolution. Considering that this is already in production and people have these in hand, which that happened kind of quickly and unexpectedly, but we're already seeing in-box images and out-of-box images, and like people have them. I hope that has resulted in money in the pocket of the artist.
Well, the artist
I'm willing to bet
state
that.
Well, the artist stated something that they had come to like some kind of an agreement. I remember.
Well, some kind of an agreement,
post.
but they didn't. Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, and I considered reaching out, but I'm sure they had a lot of people hitting them up. For stuff.
I'm sure there's enough going on.
This kind of ties into. I think when I pitched you my mic test earlier, because I'm running a new mic now. Blue Snowball.
Yep.
That's not important, but I had to do a mic test, and I was thinking, you know what would be fun? If I started talking about Buzzbee. So, let's talk a little bit about design constraints and stuff. What
I was getting my
that?
camera to focus. It wasn't focusing.
So,
design constraints, yes.
I know everyone's wondered why Buzzbee toys... Okay, hold on. I'm looking at my script and trying to formulate things in my head, and they're just sort of not really working that well. Give me a second.
You have a script?
The thing that... Shut up! So, I know everybody wonders why Buzzbee's grips have been historically... Oh, how do I put this nicely? Terrible. I was finally able to learn why. I got most of this information from Captain Slug, who, as we already stated, was taken on as their product designer, but I had to shift a lot of it around, mix some of it with my own thoughts and insights, give it a bit more substance, because he only sent me like 5 sentences, which don't really stand out that well on their own.
Okay.
Anyways, it's a lot of things. The shell designers have to figure out how to put a shell around a mechanism that the internals team has already come up with, and you can't really change that because it's already finalized. Here's your thing, put a shell on it, we're shipping it. That sounds easy in a vacuum, but we aren't working in a vacuum. We have to work around particular constraints and requirements, be it shell shape, size, cost, or something else. And the most limiting constraint that we're concerned with here is size. Now, there are 2 main things that ultimately determine what this constraint will be: retailer needs and packaging efficiency. In other words, maximizing the amount of product you can fit onto a pallet. Now, if the designer isn't creative about working with these constraints, you've got to compromise on something, and ergonomics are typically the first thing to go. And given their product development time frame and available resources at the time, it just wasn't really feasible to sink extra R&D hours solely into ergonomics. Additionally, their target audience for their older products, and we're talking about their older products here, was young children and not adults. While that isn't a good reason alone, in fact, it's a downright terrible reason, as you can easily make a grip that fits all hand sizes properly. Well, not easily, but it starts to make a bit more sense when you put it into context with their shell design pool being as shallow as it was. And let me say, as somebody who's designed several grips, several blasters, I can attest to how hard it is to make a good grip. This isn't even my grip design. This is from the links.
Right.
It was easy. I needed this done very quickly, and I was just like, throw it on there. It's good. We're good. Similarly, if you're familiar with the disaster that was the Nerf Overwatch McCree revolver, we can see further how weird design constraints force questionable design decisions. Instead of having a pre-made set of internals to fit into a shell that you're tasked with making, the shell was provided for them, and they had to make the internals.
Right.
Unlike Buzzbee, though, Hasbro is an absolutely massive company with near limitless resources by comparison, as evidenced by the fact that trying to get a designer onto our podcast is darn near impossible due to all the legal hurdles.
Right. Well, and talking about the McCree specifically, you're kind of talking about the difference between cosplay design and functional design, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, and in some world, you're building something to look like something specific, and if it's not a real-world object, you kind of get what you get.
You have to make a blaster fit inside of this. Okay, this is actually a horrible example. Let me try something else.
No, wait, I want that. I want the Luxray blaster.
Okay, you've got to make a blaster fit inside of this.
Taffy's holding up a Luxray model.
Speaking of which, if you check the Out of Darts blog post and scroll to the bottom, there's a little
Yes,
surprise.
I saw the... Yes, scroll to the bottom of the Out of Darts blog post.
Anyways, where was I? If you've seen the mechanism inside of a McCree revolver, it's weird. It's not an actual revolver. That cylinder, it's actually a pop-out single-round breech that it pops out when you prime it. Mm-hmm. It's got a turnaround, it's got a floating catch. It's basically a Lynx shoehorned into a, quote, revolver. And there's a reason you don't see a lot of them on the field. They're not good.
They are something.
Now, the system is incredibly strange and will likely never get used for anything ever again, but it was an undeniably clever solution to the absurd problem of making a functional version of a video game weapon, even if you have to stretch the definition of functional a little bit. Mm-hmm. Getting on to the Ace of Spades, what likely happened was some designer was tasked with, hey, make this thing. Go nuts. They probably just started scrolling through Google Images and found, oh, this looks like some really nice concept art.
Right.
I can work with this.
Yeah.
And they just made something. They didn't really think that far ahead. They're not being paid to think that far ahead. They're being paid to make this thing. Just make the thing.
Yeah, I definitely kind of had the theory that it was not like an intentional attempt.
Absolutely not. Out of malice.
It's much less likely to be malice and much more likely to be laziness. Like if there's a sin here, it's laziness. It was that someone found the art and went, there's a bunch of my work done, and thought it was official or thought,
I think I can say this. If you kind of noticed back when Elite 2.0 came out, when Alpha Strike came out, since then it's just kind of been a race to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
What were we gonna say, Vile?
I was gonna say what got me about it though is that Hasbro, whoever the designer is, because if you've gone through the design, things, there's always going to be meetings. People are going to be looking at your designs. They're going to be, redlining it and doing whatever. Somebody at Bungie had to look at that,
right,
and had to go, "Yep, that's ours," or just say, "Yep, that looks good," assuming that because that sounds like somebody at Hasbro probably pulled it, thinking it was, Bungie's artwork. Bungie looked at it
the
and
artist
said,
if that was the case.
Yeah, right.
And that's part of the thing is the art just looks
that's
so
what's really
good.
funny, right?
It's good art, and I say
It
this
is.
as somebody who draws my own
fantastic.
stuff, which isn't anywhere near on that level. But I'm also not drawing that style anyway. So.
But yeah,
Never
whatever it is both companies and whoever was on the project management side, whoever was in the meetings, who was giving it the green light, like, yep, somebody was dropping the ball on confirming whose art it actually was. Was it Bungie saying, "Oh, I guess Hasbro made the art for us and it looks great," or was it
right,
vice versa, and them saying, "Oh, this is Bungie's art." Like, who was doing it? Either way, because it could have been even out of laziness. You could say that the same the artist or whoever the designer was just under the constraint for time, and they had to get this product up. And then everybody was like, "Hey, that looks fantastic! Wow, you did such a great job!" And just
send it.
Yes, send it. And so there's no telling at what point in the line who screwed up. But I'm at least seeing the
I'm sure
artists
they'll be
saying,
doing some degree of internal trying to figure that out.
Oh yeah, they definitely
guarantee you, we're doing some sort of
outside-
internal audit to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
From outside, unless they tell us, there's no way to know.
Right. Well, the only thing that we got was the artist saying, "We've reached an agreement, or Bungie has reached out to me, and they handled it." Whatever that is, whether it's financial or, hey, maybe they're being brought on as an artist for him. Who knows? But
Sure.
I mean, to the point, that would actually be kind of a cool ending. But whatever it is, it's good to at least see a good outcome, and that the artist was. The artist is happy. The artist doesn't feel wronged in this situation.
Yep.
Despite kind of like how it looked, that is at least the best we could have hoped for.
Absolutely.
And
we just don't want it to happen
the Buzzbee
again.
difference. Make sure you get that camera shot in there just the way it was.
Oh yeah, no, it'll be in there. It'll
Big
be in
thumbs up right there.
I love that. It's good. All right, I think to cap this off, we're gonna do a little segment that we just made up right before we went live, called Taffy Reacts to Things.
I was wondering when we were going to get to that.
I think it's right now. So we were kind of going through. There's a handful of interesting new hobby releases, and I asked Taffy, "Hey, which one of these is interesting to you to talk about on the show to cap the show off?" And Taffy
I said I haven't been keeping up with any of these things because school has been making me want to. Excuse me.
And you just did. So clearly it was making you want to do it because you just did it.
A load has been lifted off of my shoulders.
Yeah. So the first thing that I'm going to have you take a look at is something by Domachevsky. Just came out.
I think I remember seeing this.
I just mentioned it on the show a little while, a little while ago. But this is the Bungie Max shell. And so you might also have seen before this, this is the 40 Max thing, right? And before this, he made the Micro Max, which is this one here on the right, which has an X-Shot Micro, and what is on the left is the Bungie Max.
Shoving those into everything. What the hell?
Well, and so
It's
I think part of
fantastic,
it too. I know that Flux built a bunch of these right away, and was saying like X-Shot Micros, they're just getting harder to find already. Like they've moved on to the whatever the other one is that they make,
Menace or whatever.
Yeah, the Menace. And so this Bungie-powered one shoots more darts and fits in the same space. And you can fire it out of your 40 Max blasters, or you can put this extended button on it. And anyway, what do you think, Taffy?
I like this. Oh, this reminds me, I didn't get to my 40 Max story.
Oh, yeah. Do your 40 Max story. It's perfect
time. This happened at Maryland Mayhem 2023 during the HVZ. As we mentioned, 40 Max shells are filled with green gas. Mm-hmm. Whenever you fire a gas-powered blaster, it sounds like gunfire.
Yep.
An unnamed party had a party popper on display at the Maryland HVZ, and they were told by the admins at least 3 times not to fire it on campus. I was the last person to fire it off because I had not been instructed that they had been I had not been told that they had been told to knock it off multiple times prior. The admins were absolutely furious when they saw this. This was happening in the safe zone too, which was right by a populated student building.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say who it was, but whoever it was, they know who they are.
Well, and that's why a product like this is so cool, because it allows you to use all the 40 Max blasters in a setting like that, where green gas and HPA aren't really safe or viable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is really, really cool. I'm glad that he made it. Good reaction. We're off to a good start here. All right, next up, if I can get it to load, this is the Terran Pistol Mark II by No Reason.
The Mark II. I remember when the Mark I came out.
Mm-hmm. And here's the Mark II. I don't know a ton about this other than What was your experience with the Mark One?
I never built one because I think this was back when I was in like high school or early college, so I didn't have time. Seems to be a recurring theme here if you haven't noticed. It's just a full-length pistol, and we don't have a lot of these. It was based off of something in Terraria. I don't remember what. I haven't played that much
Terraria's
Terraria.
dart pistol, but 3 years later decided to rework much of the blaster's functional components with the goal of transforming it into a simple, versatile, and powerful primary for casual events. I think one of the things that's interesting too is it's a full length, but also it seems to take short dart adapters now. Like I guess the pusher is cross compatible maybe.
It's like a parallel universe skewer. Oh, I mean, if it's taking short dart adapters, then that just means it has enough draw to be able to chamber.
Right. Well, here's sort of a... Okay. Little screw ports on the bottom. Interesting.
2 screws for barrel retention. Nice and secure.
Yeah. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I remember seeing this when it came out. I gave No Reason some tips, and yeah, it looks like he followed a lot of them.
5 out of 5 for barrel retention from Taffy. That's official. Here's one that I'm personally interested in is
Good job, man. Good job.
the Blitz by Chance.
Chance has such a way with solid modeling software. You don't see shapes like this unless they're coming out of Blender most of the time. I don't know how he does it, but the Tracer, the Free Runner, they all look beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. I love this form factor. I got to play briefly with a, you just said it, the other one, the Tracer.
Tracer. I don't know how it's actually pronounced. Sorry, Chance.
I'm pretty sure it's just pronounced Tracer, but it's spelled the French way. Let's see, because I think that this is. I mean, it's obviously similar. Here's the Tracer. Okay, so I mean, it seems like one of the main differences between the Blitz and the Tracer is just this has the battery in the handle, right? In the grip.
I would
Here's
just
the
also like to
Tracer.
say, the Tracer is masterfully designed. Everything just fits together. Incredibly low part count just because the main body is just one continuous flowing geometric work of art.
Oh, it's just beautiful. It's amazing.
I saw somebody disassemble these at one of my local games, and I was absolutely floored when I saw it. This is a really good design.
Yeah. So I mean, Tracer is mag and grip, right? And so I imagine that the Blitz is sort of a mag not in grip, battery in grip, sort of evolution of a similar core.
I'd run it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would happily run that.
Same. This is almost your colors vial.
I see that.
Just need a
Already
green
got it.
top end. Just need
Yeah,
a green
no.
top end. So yeah, I think we all give that a A++ wood run for the first time.
I'd run that in a war.
And finally, the Hamstringer.
I saw this. Didn't really look much into it because again, I was trying to not die.
Well, so it seems like it is a stringer revolver.
That's a funky cylinder if I've ever seen one.
Well, and so if I'm understanding correctly, it, you prime it when you pull the top piece here, it pulls the elastic back and locks it into part of the cylinder.
Yeah,
and
I
then
think I see
turning
how
the
this works
cylinder
now.
fires it. So
That's really wild.
You're not pulling the string back manually. It does that with the priming mechanism.
Interesting.
Which I guess. Well, wait. So what's the hammer for? Oh, the hammer
the
is
hammer pulls it
connected.
back.
The hammer pulls the string back and locks it in on the. That's nuts. Okay, I'm trying to make sure that the audio audience know. Also, I noticed it has one of Domachevsky's 3D printed assembly pins. There's a square.
Oh,
there's a
the
diamond
square
in the
block?
handle. Yeah, that's like a 3D printed part that holds the two pieces together. You sort of like tap it in, and it holds it all together. So it seems like this is zero hardware.
So is
potentially?
this is sort of a stringer that uses printed dowel pins. It's
Yeah.
funny because the people that are using that that I've primarily seen is Domo and Lidl.
Yes.
Lidl has, but Lidl doesn't use, because like you said here, this is like Domo's. Domo uses square dowels, and Lidl uses these sort of oval shape. They're basically circles that have a flat cut off the top and the bottom, so the print orientation is very easy and it doesn't cause problems.
Yeah, yeah.
And I actually, because I assembled a couple of the maracas from Lidl, so yeah, I've really started enjoying designing around printed dowel pins like that now. I really like that. That makes it so nice.
Is this a zip tie on the hammer? I think
Almost
that's a
looks
zip
like it.
tie. I think the string is zipped, or the end of this is like zip tied to the.
So
this is wild.
low cost hardware. That's even better.
That's so good.
A zip tie will handle a lot of force.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could run that. I want to know more about how the string is going through that cylinder, because
Nerf revolver firing short darts from a 6-dart cylinder that swings out and is removable. Prime the blaster by pulling the hammer down with your thumb. 2-way trigger, pull trigger to fire, push trigger forward to unlock the arm and swing out the cylinder. 2 barrel options, muzzle and muzzle 1. Planning to add more later. A cylinder holder to hold a spare cylinder, clips onto your pants but also fits on Molly tactical gear. Hardware needed: stretchy string or shock cord for return spring and mainspring. 2 elite dart heads for the trigger springs. A pin or nail of roughly 2 millimeters in diameter for the hammer hinge. 2 zip ties 4 millimeter wide or smaller. Short darts to shoot. Print instructions. Oh, there's video. I was like wondering if there would be video.
Oh, my
God.
ears! Out loud, loud.
Shush! No, I don't want.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
want the audio. I just want the video. I just want to see it being fired. Okay.
All I can say here is just.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Wow.
Look at that. It's got
That's
the full
impressive.
draw with the hammer. That's wild. That's so cool. What were you gonna say, Taffy?
All I can say is just wow.
Yeah.
You see the most creativity coming from all these stringer designs because, okay, look. This is a springer. When you've seen one of them, you've basically seen all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
They're
see
all-
this as somebody who's designed several springers.
They're all Jolt reskins.
Shut up. Okay, second.
As I said that, this guy's zip tie broke. But yeah.
Yeah, more or less, once you've seen one of them, you've seen all of them.
Right.
And you just don't see that with stringers.
There's so many different
Sort of,
ways
you do, but
to use them.
there are so many more creative ways that you can use to actually prime your energy source back.
Yeah.
Because it's generally not as strong. And that's not inherently a bad thing. Not all blasters have to be competition destroyer.
It's just a simpler power
crazy.
source, which gives you more options and more freedom.
You can have weird, crazy, leathery type stuff. You can have... You know what? I don't think we have a bolt-action stringer yet. Do we?
Oh, Lidl has one. Lidl has one.
Yeah, I would say if you ever want to look at some interesting designs for stringers, Lidl's entire lineup is really interesting.
Oh, I remember that one.
Lever action. Was it this one? Wait.
I
know there is
Khopesh
one.
was a front prime. The Corsairs
Khopesh,
obviously with
yeah.
or Khopesh, yeah. Then there's the maracas, which I really love the
Which
maracas.
are the swing?
Those are fun.
Yeah, swing.
I know
prime.
there's some that were still in development that he might not have released, so that
Well, and
maybe
there
that's
was-
where the Bolt one.
There was one that had multiple options.
Yeah, because I remember there was one that I think had like a hopper of some kind, and another one that was I don't know. There was a bunch that he'd been teasing in some videos of like some blasters he was working on, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
stringers
yeah.
are just are fascinating.
Yeah,
They're
all I can say
low
is
power
just,
source, but
wow.
they're great. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Cool
they are
design.
yeah they are really interesting. That's why I picked up a lot of the stringer stuff and the micro reskins from Domo because they're just always really fun. Because Domo went down the whole list of bolt action, hammer primed, trying to do a lever action, like all different variants of how it primes, even to the putting it into a 40 max shell. It's just like anybody who can redesign around something like that in just the same little tiny power package that these things are in, whether it's a stringer or like a micro, is really interesting to watch. Love seeing their designs.
Absolutely.
I need to make a conductor's revolver. I keep forgetting to do that.
Oh yeah, I was just noticing on Domo's website that he made built the 6th conductor's revolver that he's made in his shop. They're just so big.
I need to build one. I need to build one.
Do it.
I have the files. I just need to do it.
I've been holding this. I teased it in the Out of Darts blog. I've been teasing it all over Discord. Actually, not really teasing it, just like posting it because it's the only exciting thing I'm really working on right now.
You teased it here, but tease it further.
Cherrypicker. Okay, I've been designing springers since like 2019.
Yeah.
Everything has bearings in it now. You don't need bearings for a smooth prime. You don't. Oh, right. Also, Talon Claws. Have you ever used a Talon Claw 4? They're heavy. They are really heavy. Mm-hmm. They are also using screws to hold the bars onto the ends, and for some reason, people aren't using thread locker in their builds. Those screws always work themselves loose, and you end up with a blaster that just rattles, crunches. It's not good.
I use thread locker. I don't know why other people.
This prototype, this is a Cherrypicker. This is a prototype right now, as you can see from the crazy fancy text I put on there.
For reference, we covered the Cherrypicker as a prototype in episode 37 of the show as a half length. Just mentioning that because you teased it.
I am bad at remembering things. Anyways, this one's using Lynx bars right now. It's using T4 Talon Claw bars as the pump. Oh, right. Something that a lot of Springer designers don't really consider is RAM O-rings. So, these are a wear item. These wear out. They break. Mm-hmm. I've gone onto the field before, and then I left the field missing parts.
Yeah.
This is designed for easy access so you can get a finger in from the bottom and from the top. All of that having to disassemble the entire blaster. We need more good, cheap Springers.
Yeah. That's cool.
Oh, did I also mention how light it is? Instead of using, 6 bars like a Talon Claw 4, this uses 5 bars.
All right. That's a significant savings.
Doesn't sound like a whole lot, but
makes a difference.
Yeah. We don't have to have extra bars spanning the back. We only have one spanning the top.
That's exciting.
I'm tired. I didn't really sleep that well last night.
Well, I appreciate the teaser on the Cherrypicker, and that'll be really exciting to see that come to fruition and come out. And in the meantime, folks can check out your existing work: the skewer, the red herring,
the old skewer, not the new one.
Right, of course.
Well, they can also check out the new one. What are you talking about?
And also the Twist Fury. They can also check.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea where the name came from? The Twist Fury? I don't.
I have absolutely no idea where the name came from.
But anyway,
I think it's because the priming handle can actually twist. I have my hands full. I can't really do it right now, but the rod doesn't twist, but the handle does.
Ah, okay. I mean, that might be why. I don't know.
It probably is.
Where can people check out Caramel Designs? Where do you want to send people?
Caramel Designs on GitHub. I don't remember my GitHub link off the top of my head.
That's fine.
There's also Shidmark Precision Engineering if you want to go into the depths of hell.
Can you get to the Discord from the GitHub?
I can make that a possibility.
That might make sense.
I'm also trying to work on. I'm also working on an actually professional Discord so people can actually get help. That's what Shidmark started as. A professional help Discord, but now everybody there needs actual professional help.
But now it's called Shidmark Engineering.
Shidmark Precision Engineering, not precision, precision. P-E-R, not P-R-E.
It's true. It's an important distinction.
Mm-hmm. Bit of wordplay there.
Well, yeah, everybody be sure to check out Taffy's work. Subscribe to Taffy's YouTube for an occasional nonsensical video.
Yeah, they're not Nerf videos.
Do you remember when you posted that video of you playing the broken piano and I remixed it?
I don't remember Remix, but I do
You
remember
don't
the Broken
remember that?
Piano.
Look through our DMs. I sent it to you.
I'll have
It
to
was a
check
while.
those
It was a
out.
while back. It was like a couple years ago now. Maybe I'll set that up as the outro song just for once. People know what I'm talking about. But anyway, with that, I know Vile. Or let's see, when are you back on stream, Vile?
I will not be getting back into the States until October 1st, actually. I'll
So
be
another
trying
weekend of no Vile.
Yeah.
Oh wait, it's
Yeah.
September. That's not very long.
Two more
Okay.
weekends. 2 more weekends of no Vile. That's right.
2 more weekends, yeah. I'll be in the UK up until that point, so
Intense.
yeah.
And then you'll be jet lagged, but we'll see what that
I'll be
results in.
doing my best to try to help with the news that week.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tight squeeze.
For sure. Great. Well, I don't really have anything to plug right now.
I
but,
have one thing. I came up with this a little while ago.
Okay.
While I was looking for your news script channel, we should do an episode on April Fool's Day where it's just me saying hi, and then it immediately cuts to credits after like 2 seconds.
Spoiler alert. Why are you giving
now
stuff
everybody
away?
knows.
This part's in the show. Now everybody knows.
Well, it's an Easter egg for people who actually watch the podcast.
I guess
Ooh,
so.
that's a
For
good
people who
point.
listen to 1 hour and 36 minutes into the podcast, they'll
1
actually-
hour and 36 minutes of.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Taffy. This was a delight, as always. I guess I'll have to come to a local event where you live if I want to play with you again sometime soon. But I'm glad that you're surviving school.
To the best of my ability.
Yeah. And yeah, thanks for coming on.
Hey,
And
thanks for
thank
having
you-
me again.
Thank you, listeners, for checking us out. Be sure to check out our Ko-Fi merch page, all that business. We have things that you can spend money on or just look at and whatever. And follow Taffy and follow Vile on Twitch and wait 2 weeks to see him on there.
Yes. You have time.
Exactly. All right. Good night, y'all.
See ya.
We have to wait for that countdown. We have to wait for a lot of things today.
It's true.
Hello and
Hey,
welcome.
sorry, wait, hold on.
What? Oh my god.
Hold on.
If you're
Let me
gonna
change
do
something
it,
a bit
if you're gonna do
more,
it, let me do the intro, and then do it. Okay. All right. Hello.